Hello, everyone. This is Brenda Ahankara again, CEO and founder of My Well Self. We are a tech-enabled, wellness-focused care navigation platform that helps consumers find personalized wellness treatment with care navigation and wellness coaching. But enough about us. We're super excited today to have Maggie. You're going to have to help me with your last name again. I apologize.
It's okay. Bergeron.
Wonderful. She is a registered physiotherapist and owner of the Yellow Room Physiotherapy, which is virtually available. And today we're going to speak with Maggie to learn all that we can about physiotherapy. I want to say too that my father was a physiotherapist, so I have a little bit of understanding. And I worked in my very first job was in a physiotherapy clinic, but that was a long time ago. So this is a nice refresher for me. Let's start off by just perhaps introducing yourself, please, Maggie.
Absolutely. So as you said, my name is Maggie. I am a registered physiotherapist in the province of Ontario. And I'm also the co-founder of Embodia, which is a tech platform for physiotherapists and rehab professionals and their patients. I did my undergrad degree at the University of Ottawa in kinesiology. And I played on the water polo team at U of O, which was an important part of my journey. And then I did my master's in physiotherapy at McMaster University. And after that, I licensed as a physiotherapist in Ontario.
Okay, wonderful. So you touched upon my second question was your journey and training, but what ultimately led you to wanting to become a physiotherapist?
Two reasons. There was a personal reason. Playing water polo, I had a lot of shoulder injuries and ended up in physiotherapy frequently. I also tended to be chronically injured and actually have something called chronic pain.
Okay.
And actually, as a result, only recently officially diagnosed, I have a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So I had a lot of strange symptoms growing up, basically from the age of about 13 onwards, and was in physio a lot. So I became fascinated by the profession. And the second reason was when I was doing my undergrad degree in kinesiology, I did a co-op placement at a school with a physiotherapist and an occupational therapist. And the school was for children with developmental disabilities. And it just opened kind of the way for me in terms of physio, because I didn't realize the scope of practice that physios have and the variety of areas that a physio could practice in. So I became even more curious about the profession.
That's wonderful. So I think that will take us really well into our next question, which is how are physiotherapists different from kinesiologists? And if I'm able to throw in there, how are they different from athletic therapists? Do they work together? What is their approach? So this is a really loaded question. So I'd love to hear your response to that, please.
Absolutely. So physiotherapists are, or sometimes called physical therapists as well, are a regulated profession in Canada.
Okay.
And that means by law, physiotherapists must have a license to practice. In Canada, provincial and territorial organizations called regulatory colleges are responsible for licensing physiotherapists. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm registered or licensed with the College of Physiotherapists of Ontario, and I can see people anywhere through the province of Ontario. So in order to become a licensed physiotherapist in Canada, you have to complete an undergraduate program, which can be in any program, but there's certain courses that you need to take in order to apply to your master's in physiotherapy.
Okay.
Once you do your master's in physiotherapy, you then go on to do the national licensing exams. It is a little bit different if you're in the province of Quebec, but we'll just speak generally here. There are licensing exams that need to be passed in order for you to then apply to get your license through your regulatory body. So that's physiotherapy. And we're trained in a wide range of body systems. So the musculoskeletal system, which is typically what people may think of when they think about a physiotherapist, like shoulder pain or back pain, aches and pains and injuries, but we're also trained in neurology, cardiology, and across every age span. So from pediatrics, children, all the way to seniors health. So we have quite a range in our practice. We also have the ability to what's called roster for specific acts, which are additional activities that physiotherapists can practice, like tracheal suctioning, pelvic floor physiotherapy, which is specialized area. So we have quite a wide range of areas of practice. Kinesiologists in Ontario are regulated. Kinesiologists in the rest of Canada are currently not regulated.
Okay.
So they are working towards becoming a regulated profession, but only those in Ontario have the option to have a license to practice.
Okay.
Athletic therapists do not have a regulatory body. However, they can get licensed through another regulatory body. So I think the most common one for athletic therapists is through kinesiologists.
Okay.
Or the kinesiologist college. So that's kind of one of the biggest differences is if you see a physiotherapist in Canada, they will be licensed with a regulating body, which has quite strict measures in terms of who can practice, and it's a protected title. Kinesiologists in Ontario can license. Athletic therapists currently cannot. We do frequently work together, though. We are allied professions, so frequently you will see us working together or even referring when appropriate to each other's services.
Okay.
Kinesiologists focus on the musculoskeletal system, body movement. Athletic therapists, you'll tend to find them more in areas of sport and athletics. Okay,
that's great. Again, my understanding of the range of scope for physiotherapists comes from my early exposure. And I did one time also get into an accident. So that's kind of where I was thinking. So thanks for explaining that. And just to add on that, what general health ailments do physiotherapists tend to address? Maybe in your clinic or your colleague's clinic, what are you generally seeing?
So again, there's quite a range. If you see a physiotherapist in a private practice, so you're going to a clinic where you are either going to be paying or submitting to insurance, or maybe you're in a car accident or a workplace injury, typically a physiotherapist is going to address any range of body pain. So pain that you may be experiencing, injuries that you've sustained. But we can also address areas, as I mentioned, in neuro or cardiorespiratory. So we can also work in areas with those who have Parkinson's disease, MS, chronic pain such as fibromyalgia, Ehlers-Danlos, which is the condition I have, as well as pediatrics, so working with children.
Okay, that's great. Great explanation. And what's a typical session look like for you? If I was coming to see Maggie and I had whatever health element I wanted to address, are you able to kind of generalize that, or is it difficult for you to say?
Well, if you're coming to see me, I certainly can outline what that would look like. But I think one of the key things to really get across here is that because physiotherapists have such a wide range of potential areas that they can practice in. If you are somebody listening to this and you're thinking, oh, I have this pain or this issue going on, what I would really encourage you to do is to maybe reach out to a physio or do some research about that particular niche, because there's a lot of areas of practice. So for example, a growing area is actually vestibular conditions, dizziness, Meniere's disease, BPPV. There are physiotherapists who specialize in treating the inner ear and vestibular conditions. There are physiotherapists who specialize in treating pelvic health conditions. So those who are pregnant, postpartum, have incontinence. And these are really specialized areas of practice. And it is something that is happening within the physiotherapy world right now, is really specializing in particular areas. So a session with me is probably going to look different than if you're somebody with a vestibular condition or somebody who has a sports injury even, because in my practice, I tend to see those who have chronic pain. So those who have ongoing persistent pain, whether it's from fibromyalgia or some sort of unresolved injury that's still creating symptoms.
Okay, great. So I think that you've really taught me some things today. So it's not just about I got into a car accident and I need to go see a physiotherapist. Treatment can be very granular. That's what I'm hearing from you. Great. I
That's
learned
right.
something.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So you kind of addressed some of our questions here. So I want to just get to this question, which I love to ask, which is, what are some things you want to dispel about physiotherapists? Or I say, what are some myths that you consistently hear that you want to dispel with our audience today?
One is that physiotherapy needs to be provided in person.
Great.
Through the pandemic, we did see a huge move to online services. I think not just in physiotherapy, but through a lot of areas of healthcare.
Yeah.
And physiotherapy can be very effectively provided through online means. And one of the advantages of doing it that way is there's a huge focus on empowerment and education of the client so that they can then manage their condition through what they're learning through the sessions, rather than going to see a physiotherapist to fix you, which is also a myth. We can't fix people, but we can certainly guide and coach in helping people help themselves. And one thing that virtual provides is that real focus on how can we help you help yourself through our education, through tools, often through corrective exercises or other rehab tools that we can teach to folks. And it doesn't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's still value in having some in-person services, but it's just that it's not an all or nothing. There is a lot of value in our knowledge that we have and how we can teach it to folks with a wide range of conditions.
Okay, wonderful. And is that the only myth you want to address today? That was a great comment, great response. Did you want to go on to the next one, or?
Sure, I have one
okay,
more.
great. I thought that was
There's probably several.
Okay, well, whatever you
I'll
want.
Go with one more.
Go ahead.
I think something that we are trying to shift as a culture in physiotherapy and in healthcare too, is this idea of seeing a healthcare provider to fix you or seeing a physiotherapist to fix you. Again, we can't, unfortunately, we don't have a magic wand and can't just fix people, but we certainly can coach and guide people in helping them fix themselves. Our bodies are extremely resilient. And even if you are listening to this and if you've had pain for many, many years, our bodies are very resilient and have the ability to heal. Oftentimes, what we think, as long as there are no what we call red flags, meaning there's no serious pathology like cancer, or a fracture, something where you require medical attention, often ongoing pain is actually not what you think it is. It is not actually tissue damage or because of a tear or a structural issue. It is often because our nervous system has misinterpreted the information that it is being provided and is creating ongoing pain. So it does require a different approach. It does require some open-mindedness to coming into seeing a physiotherapist who would take what we call a biopsychosocial approach to care, which means basically taking the whole person into account. We're not treating your back or your neck, we're treating you as a person. And there are lots of aspects of your life that impact pain. That means things like sleep, diet, how much you exercise, how you feel about exercise even, or what you enjoy doing, what you're not able to do right now, and the kind of mental stress that may be placing on you, or just generally stress in general, how you perceive your job, how much you enjoy your job, how stressful things are at home. So taking into account all of those factors is something that physiotherapists do who are taking this biopsychosocial approach to care.
Great response. And I love that response that you just gave. And to the next question, perhaps we can get on to what question you personally get asked the most by your base. Can you think of a few questions that you would love to share today?
Yeah, absolutely. There's usually recurring questions. For me, the questions I frequently get are, why do I still have this pain so many years later? Why hasn't it gotten better? how do I make this pain go away? Or how do I make it better? And what do I need to do? Often people are coming because they have pain. That's kind of the most common reason that people will seek out a physiotherapist, is they have some sort of a pain or injury causing pain. So those are kind of the questions that I typically get. And the conversation that I often have to start is around actually what is pain, right? Because like I mentioned, pain is often not actually what we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Pain can be a result of a perceived threat, and it's not something that people are doing consciously. These are complex neurological processes that are happening within our nervous system that are not within our conscious control.
Okay.
But often understanding a little bit about what pain actually is a very helpful first step that I take with folks who see me.
Okay, so just to get off course here, now I'm interested in this discussion of pain. Is it something that people perceive as physical, or can you dive into that a little bit deeper for our listeners, if possible?
Yes, absolutely. So kind of one of the misconceptions, and it's completely fair, I thought this for many years, until I started to really learn more about pain, is that when we have pain, and I'm going to use my example of my shoulder pain that I had, we often associate that with the structure, right? I tore a ligament, or I tore a muscle, or I tore the labrum, and therefore I have pain.
Right.
And sometimes there's even kind of this imaging results, right? You might get an MRI that says, oh, you do have a labral tear, or you do have a meniscal tear. That's common for the knee, or you do have a disc bulge in your back. And we make this correlation that because you have that, you therefore have pain.
Okay.
When in fact, we now know that that's not actually true. Okay. There's been huge studies done that have looked at thousands of people, and these are imaging studies. So they'll ask people to fill out a survey and ask, where's your pain? Draw on that little body diagram. Where do you have pain? And then they'll do an MRI. And there's no correlation between people's reports and what's on the MRI, meaning people who report a lot of pain may have no significant findings on the MRI. People who report no pain have all kinds of tears and things happening in their body that sound atrocious, but actually are not creating pain. So this then begs the question of, well, can we have tears or structural changes and no pain? And the answer is yes, we absolutely can. And we can have pain and no structural changes in our body. So we just need to be cautious about, if you have had imaging, how much you weigh the imaging. It's not that, again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
If you've had the imaging, keep it, but just don't put 100% weight on it, because it may not actually be depicting what is creating your pain. And this is such good news, because I also see so many people who've been told, I have severe arthritis, bone on bone, I have no space left in my joint. It's a hopeless case. I can't get better. But this is good news, because you can actually get better. There's lots of people who have no space in their joint, or who have bone on bone and no pain at all. Right. So that is fantastic news. It's just that we have to take a different approach. So if it's not structural, that's creating, then what is it that's creating the pain? And the part of the answer is actually our nervous system. Right? Our nervous system is designed to help keep us safe. And if it's feeling unsafe, or if it's perceiving things to be unsafe, then it's going to give you pain. And we therefore need to take an approach that helps treat our nervous system as well as our physical body.
Great answer. I loved that. And I was trying to put it together in my head, but you just did a wonderful job articulating that for me. So thanks. And I think listeners will like that too as well. Pain doesn't necessarily equal something's broken in me. That's what I'm hearing.
That's right.
Great. Wonderful. Okay. Now, a couple more questions. When someone decides to come and see Maggie, or any physiotherapists out there, and again, it may differ on their issue, what kind of outcomes can I see if I'm committed, right? I'm seeing you every, month or two. And what can I envision for me in the end, or continuously?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think first and foremost, the answer is working towards your goals. So
Yeah.
accomplishing whatever the goals are that you're coming in with. Everybody's going to have different goals depending on what they want to do. I see some people who just want to play with their grandchildren, that like to be able to get down on the floor and play with their grandchildren. So that's what we're working towards. And that's what could be expected, is we're working towards the thing that you, or things that you want to be able to do.
Right.
Certainly there is usually an aspect of reduction or resolving symptoms that comes along with it. That's usually why people are coming in, is to help their pain get better or go away, but also very much focusing on the goals. What do you want to get back to doing, and how can we get there?
Okay, great. I think that sounds pretty reasonable. Okay, and last but not least, just so everyone's aware, are physiotherapists covered under health benefits? So if I had benefits, am I able to use that as a resource to be able to see someone like you?
Usually they are, yes. It's always best to check with your benefits. So it does depend, but usually physiotherapy is covered under insurance or health benefits. And if you've been in a car accident, or if you have had a workplace injury, then there is kind of separate insurance for that, but you would need to check to see what's covered, and then make sure that the physiotherapist that you're seeing works with those who've been in either a car accident or a workplace injury.
Wonderful. Okay, well, that wraps it up with Maggie. Again, she is a registered / licensed physiotherapist and the owner of the Yellow Room Physiotherapy. You can find out more about Maggie on My Well Self and also on her website. And anything else to end off this this wonderful chat, Maggie, before we end?
I would just encourage people, again, if you're listening and you are either struggling with where you're at, or you're feeling stuck with the symptoms that you have, or the place that you're in, just know that you are certainly not alone. It is actually very common. Chronic pain is one of the most common conditions in the world, and there are plenty of very well-educated and very helpful physiotherapists who would be more than happy to speak with you. And if they are not the right ones for you to see, and you have a conversation with them, they will be more than happy, I'm sure, to send you in the correct direction, or provide you with the names of someone who would be more suitable for what you're experiencing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Maggie. And with that, thank you, everybody. We'll just end the chat here.